So we'll go back. So this is the earliest job that I have. I worked like McDonald's and Chick-fil-A. They're not on here. I don't think anyone's going to care that I know how to make a chicken sandwich. But okay, so you know clearly where I worked. You know clearly what my title was. Also, it's the words that I'm trying to get y'all to get. Is notice I didn't say like, I sat around with a bunch of friends and we wrote an encyclopedia. It's powerful words: researched, organized, wrote. That was one of my jobs. I wrote an encyclopedia on astronomy and archaeology. Why? I got paid to do it. All right, they went out of business. No fault of mine. Let's say. All right, so next job. It's like, okay, well now you know immediately what's my title, who did I work for, what did I do. Right? I don't say I called authors and talked to them about their manuscript. What I say is I edited, I typeset, consulted. Because that's what I did. That was my job. And so you have to think of the words because you're trying to make yourself stand out from a crowd of, how many people do we graduate every year? Not just at UAB, but across the state, across the country. You're trying to make yourself stand out by showing, okay, this is why you want me. Get out a thesaurus when you do this. I love this, demystify the ACT. That's awesome. It's one of my prouder words. I taught the ACT for like, how many years? 3, and now I just independently do it. I hate it. If anyone's watching this, don't hire me. Like, it pays really well, more than I think I deserve, but I hate it. I hate it. It tires me out. Every time someone calls, goes, we got your name from so-and-so. I just want to punch the person who gave them my name. I'm like, I'm tired of it, but the money is too good to stop. I also wrote practice test passages. I got paid to write some. So if you buy one of their books, you'll see some of my passages. Or if you read about the word retina, that's mine. Proud of it. They paid me like $150 for it. So whatever. But the idea here is you want to have a clear, easy to read layout. The usual recommendation is that you try to keep it to one page if you can. Now, if it starts going over, you may have to make some choices, but you have to think about the other person. They're seeing 50 of these. You want to stand out in some way. And a clear, easy to read resume is a good way to do this. So, I will tell you one funny thing about my resume whenever I give this to people. This has now happened twice when I've been tutoring. They look at it and go, no, actually it happened once for tutoring, once for the legal thing I did. They got it and went, there's a lot of sex on here. That's where they got it and go, there's a lot of sex on your resume. And I'm like, I guess there is. I'm going to do it. It's like psychology of sex differences, human sexuality. Teaching more sex, or it's just those two? I don't know. People seem to think there's a lot of sex on there. Any questions about resumes? Yeah, those are the places I actually worked for. Then here. That's all I've done. All right. So references. You should ask your people if they can be references. It's bad if you do not, because they may not be prepared to get a call, and they're on the other end going, who is this person? What was I supposed? What lie was I? What was I supposed to emphasize about them? Diligent. They wanted me to make sure I said diligent a lot. No, because people will go like, I'm applying for this job, and they really want to hear that I am punctual. All right, make sure you emphasize punctual, or that I am stable, or whatever. Ask them. You should also ask if they'll say good things. I cannot emphasize this enough. Don't just say if you can use them. Ask if they will say good things about you. No, there are people who will they'll go, yeah, have them call me. We had a professor here, I'm not going to say names or genders. We had a professor here, and they would write letters and were, I felt, unnecessarily critical of people. Like, let's say the person was making a 92 average. They would say they were on the AB border and not not the best student. I'm like, they're making an A. Man. You know, it seems a little too.
Why didn't you use that person as a
What?
Why didn't you use that person as a
Because you wouldn't know they were doing this to you. The person didn't ask if they would say good things, they just asked if they would give a letter. Now, that's not the worst thing in the world to say about someone, but if it's like, oh, they're on the AB border and not the best student, it's like, here's what you got to remember. What is everyone else doing in their letters?
Like with good stuff.
They're saying good stuff, right? They're saying great stuff. You invented the internet, you put cream cheese in a can, I don't know what your skills are here, right? And so if I say, you want to be honest, right? But if I say, but going, AB student, not the best, that sort of, it strikes me as kind of harsh considering the facts. Like, I would never say that. I would say something else. But ask if they'll say good things about you. And if it says it's enough, if you're going to ask me for a letter, make sure I know. Make sure. I had someone recently who I didn't know. This is true. It was this semester. I didn't know who they were. They had me in a class 7 years ago. And I didn't know them then, didn't know them now, and they hounded me for a letter of recommendation. And I said, I can't say anything about you. Like, I don't know who you are. All I can say is you came to my class 7 years ago, and that's all they said. So I don't know if they got accepted or not. I'm like, they were in my class 7 years ago and hounded me to say this. All right. As a practical point, if you're asking one of your professors, let's say you're going to ask me, I need to know who you are. I need to be able to point you out of a crowd. So does your other professors. They need to know who you are. Because if all they can say is, came to class, made A's and B's, you know what else gives that information?
GPA.
Yeah, GPA, your transcript. You want them to be able to say something more, I had engaging conversations with them. They participated in class. They have for reasons grown mutton chocks and I cannot figure out what's going on. Why are you growing mutton chocks, man? Something like that. Something like that.
We'll give you coupons for Arby's.
And they gave me coupons for Arby's, Bought me drinks while I was out. Whatever it is you want them to say. No, you want them to know who you are. You want it to be where they can say more than simply, they were in my class. You understand? So, if you're thinking of asking one of your professors now, start getting to know them. Make sure they know who you are. You're not just in class, but you may send an email. Even I sometimes have made up emails to send to people I'm taking classes from, just so they know who I am. It's sad. I'm sad. On the day of the interview, remember to play the part. I shouldn't have to say this, but people sometimes show up for their interviews dressed inappropriately. Do we still have words like interview clothing? We used to say Sunday best, but that has lost its meaning.
Yeah.
We used to say Sunday best. Now it's like, where can we wear shoes? So dress appropriately for your interview. I know this seems like kind of silly, but for some people, but there are people who don't do this, who don't dress appropriately. Be on time.
Be early.
What?
Be early.
Yeah, certainly be early so that you're there waiting when they show up. That's not what I want. Use appropriate. This one always gets me in trouble. Appropriate manners. I don't know why this one always gets me in trouble. I mean, I would tell you this.
Society has deemed appropriate.
Yeah, it is. But there are certain things that are still appropriate, such as saying thank you.
Writing a thank you letter.
A thank you letter of some form, obviously with their name in it, your name in it, and why you're sending it. Seriously, I still get these. I still get the anonymous emails. Who? What do I have to do? To go, that is not appropriate. What are some other appropriate manners that y'all have learned? Y'all got any instruction on job finding?
Just smile.
Well, let's see. What you should be prepared. I don't know what jobs you're applying for. So the ones I'm most familiar with, I work as a tutor. Not that I want to, but I still do. It just pays well. So I introduce myself, I shake hands, I'm nice to the people, I don't insult their kids even though I want to. You know, I'm like, oh, your kid has a 14 on the ACT. Well, we can work with that, you know. Miracles have happened, I don't know. Use appropriate manners. Show you're serious. You want a job. You know, you want a job from these people. Now, there's some problems with traditional employment interviews, and I've already alluded to some of the problems, is a lot of this information that says how good of an employer you will be is accessible to anyone with your GPA, your GRE, previous work history, and interviewing has very mixed effects. And part of the problem is that the characteristics of the interviewer, as I've already alluded, interact with the characteristics of the interviewee. Any guess, given what you know so far, what is one of the biggest factors that makes this not work as well? The interviewing process. There's one factor that really sort of... Gender. In particular, we've already seen something known as the halo effect. What's the halo effect?
When you're watched, you act differently.
That's Hawthorne effect.
Oh.
No, that's good. They both
Sorry,
start
I was
with
trying to
H.
guess.
No, that's a very good guess. That's what that.
I don't know.
Sorry to interrupt. You look good looking, you're gonna get easy questions.
Not so easy questions, but we tend to be nicer to attractive people. That's one of the major issues here. One bias here, and especially well pronounced, is the bias of attractiveness and this halo effect. So I know some organizations have taken to doing blind interviews where they don't ever actually see the people, like especially symphonies doing some of this. So it's a concern because people sit down and interview and then they start asking questions and I'm like, did you think at all about these questions before you asked me? And they're like, no. Like, if you were an animal,
I hate those kind of questions in interviews.
I'm like, well, I would be a person because I actually am one. You know, the last jobs I've interviewed have all been tutoring jobs. So, let me give you some more data here. This is really the slide that I wanted to get to with some of this. It's that how I feel about you, like my expectations are going to influence how I act towards you, right? So if I think you're going to be suitable for the job, if I think you're not going to be suitable, this is going to influence the questions I ask. It's going to influence your responses. And really, I think I'm getting external data when I'm not. This actually shows up, y'all need to be aware of this, this shows up in your college professors too. So research after research suggests, starting even in grade school, that attractive kids are treated differently than unattractive kids. And this continues. Well, how can we as professors be better about, because part of what we're doing is we're evaluating you, how can we be better about this? And getting actual, accurate data from y'all.
I know like the medical school interviews, the people that interview you don't get any information about you before you walk in, so they don't have your GPA, they don't have your resume.
So they don't know. So I mean, I guess they can assume that you're probably qualified, but.
Yeah, because you have to make the first cut, but they don't know like what you've done or anything like that. They get your resume when they walk in, and so they can ask you questions about your resume.
That's interesting.
But the biases are still there.
The bias is still going to be there, you know, if you look a certain way or don't look a certain way. But is there a way? I'll tell you something I do to get. I know these. Whenever I sign papers in any class, anybody in class I have papers for? No, in this class. There's something I do that I started doing because I was like, how do I get good data? I don't do them by names. All they give me is their banner number.
Yeah.
Why would I do that?
Because you can't memorize everybody.
First of all, I don't care. I'm not going to memorize. Right? I could theoretically do it, right? I teach memory. I should be able to do this.
So you don't associate that person with what you're doing.
Well, it's, okay, so let's say you turn in your paper, and Byron turns in his paper, right? So let's pick on Byron so much, right? We should get a shot of him for one of the, no. So, all right, so am I going to, so what's immediately going to happen as soon as I see your name on the paper?
You're gonna think about what they've done.
What they've done, if they've come to class, or I might know, oh, if she fails, you know, she's told me that, you know, her family's going to take her out of school. So now I'm trying to read your paper. Am I reading it neutrally?
No.
No, not at all. Not at all. I actually really like this anonymous thing because it's, I've had some really interesting surprises. I've had students, and I finished grading, and I'm like, oh, wow, that was awesome. Who was that? Oh, man, did not expect that, but it's cool. Then I've had some where I'm like, this person is clearly getting by on their something else, reputation or something. But we really have to be aware of